My name is Bibhas Bhattacharya. Today I'll be talking about Vue.js, just a very high-level introduction. And I did not create any presentations on purpose because it gets kind of boring. So what I'm going to be doing is building a real application from scratch and just talk through it. So first of all, what is Vue.js? What can I do with it? And for that, I would like you to go to a site. And I've been working on a set of tools to track a couple of different numbers for COVID-19, for example. In this case, so these tools were developed using Vue.js. What I'm going to do is I'm going to post the link in the chat area. And we're not going to develop this tool. I just wanted to show you what these tools are like and what can you do with Vue.js. It's a very typical example of how to use Vue.js. So the first one is a trend tool. So it shows you the average of the last few days. So if I go to Florida, for example, I can see the positive cases, hospitalization. So it shows you the charts and the 7-day average. And you can go to the settings and view last 60 days data. And you can see it's changing immediately. So those are examples of, essentially you can build a full application for the browser using Vue.js. And the source code is right here for all of these three tools. And you can go to Vue source and you can look at the source code right here. So it's not obfuscated. So if you're trying to learn Vue.js, it's a great way to get into this. So everything like this modal dialog and everything is done using a few lines of Vue.js. So that shows you how easy it is to use Vue.js, and you can create powerful applications. The other one is the like a state comparison tool, for example. It shows you some key statistics, and you can sort them by clicking on the header. So all of this is done using Vue.js. And once again, the source code is down in the you can just do view page source, and you can see the source code. So there's a lot going on here. Like we are getting the data from the server. As you will see somewhere here, you're getting the data. So one of you have a question. Yeah, just feel free to unmute yourself and you can ask me any question anytime. Go ahead, Rajkumar. You can ask a question in your microphone or post a question in the chat if you have any question. All right, I'm going to just lower your hand and continue with the presentation. But anyway, if any of you have any question during the presentation, don't wait till the end. Just feel free to post a chat or just unmute yourself and ask a question. So I just want to quickly take you through these tools. And again, I posted the link. These are all done using Vue.js. So you can build fairly complex tools using Vue.js, which are like fully like these are like little applications. Now, before I start building my application for this presentation, there's something I'd like to point out about Vue.js. Vue.js can be used in two different scenarios. The first scenario is where the page is rendered in server. So we are talking about things like JSP, ASP, PHP. These are the server-side page generation tools. So you can generate the page in the server and just use Vue.js to add some functionality to So that's one way of doing it. But the main rendering of the page is done in the server by JSP, ASP, etc. So that's one way of doing it. There is a second way you can use Vue.js, where the page is entirely generated or rendered in the browser. All right. So in this case, we don't use any JSPs, ASPs, or PHP. They just completely go away. The entire page is generated in the browser side. That's the second way of doing it. So if you know AngularJS, this is same as Angular, works the same way. So there are two ways we can use Vue.js. The first one is easy to get started because a lot of the work is done in your JSP, ASP, and you're just adding some small functions like, for example, you're doing form validation and things like that. Whereas in the second case, all the work in terms of getting the data, formatting the page, dynamically rendering data on the page, all of that is done using Vue.js. Okay, so Vue.js does everything. When you go to the second mode, you don't need to use JSPs at all. In fact, the JSPs go away. So in this webinar, we're going to be building an application using the second approach. And this is also called single page application, or SPA. So we're going to build an SPA type application using Vue.js. So what would the application do? It's going to be a very simple online retail site. It'll have some basic functions like show list of products, view product details, and it's going to have a shopping cart page. So we're going to have these 3 pages in this application, and I'm going to build the whole thing using Vue.js. There is no server-side component for this one, but in real life, you're probably going to interact with the server and get the list of products and add to cart and things like that. All right, so let's get started. We're going to create a new application. We're going to call it, we're going to be selling like peanuts and almonds and things like that in the store. So we're going to call it, the name of the application will be Nut Hut. So let's get started. We're going to create an application called Nut Hut. So to do that, I use a command line tool called Vue, which is called Vue Command Line Interface, or Vue CLI. So we're going to use this tool called Vue CLI, Command Line Interface, which I had installed previously. This is a Node.js based tool. So using npm, I have installed this tool. Now I can create a new application. And I have to choose manually some of the features I need for a single page application. So one of the things I need is a router. A router is what gives me single page application behavior. The rest I don't really need. I'm going to just accept all the other defaults. I'm just going to accept all the defaults here. So it's creating the project. The project is created as a set of files. We're going to take a look at this set of files. While we're waiting for all the dependencies to be downloaded and installed, just to let you know, this dependency on Node and various packages of Node, this is something you only need during development. This is not a runtime need. So during actual runtime, you don't need to have a Node installed in the server or anything like that. This is just a development tool. So what's happening with these tools like Angular and React and Vue? We don't have IDE type tools, like we don't have IDEs with wizards that create applications. We instead use these command line tools to create applications and that create files within the application. So These command line tools are essentially like what the wizards used to be in the old days. They are development time tools. We don't need them in the actual execution time or server side. Okay, so the files got created. Let me open the file. And let me open the package. File open. So I see a bunch of folders and files created. By the way, I'm using Visual Studio Code here, as you can tell. And one of the things I got downloaded here is an add-on called Vetur. This is for Vue tooling for VS Code. So if you are doing a lot of Vue.js development, I highly recommend that you um, uh, install this tool for Visual Studio Code. If you're using some other editor like, for example, Sublime or Atom, they all have Vue.js extensions. So you want to go ahead and install those, and that's going to help things a lot. It'll do formatting. It'll show errors as you are typing. It'll do code completion. So all of those are time savers. All right, let's go back and take a look at what got generated. I can see my package.json file, which has all my dependencies. So these dev dependencies are usually, these are things like compilers and things like that that will build our application. They don't need to be present during execution. And these are the real dependencies. So this is something that will be used in the actual execution of the application. So you can see that I have the view here, which is the main thing. And then because I'm going to be developing a single page application, I need the router here. All right. So when the application gets generated, it creates a few pages for us. You can see them here. So let's actually run the generated application and see what it looks like. And I run a local development time server. And what this server does, it's not just a web server, it's also does compilation. So it's building my project, and now it's making the files available in localhost 8080. So this is just a static web server. Remember, we don't need any special runtime in the server side for Vue to work. So it's just a static web server plus the compiler built in. So it's doing two things. So let me go to my development server, and what it's showing is that it's showing the home page, and I can click on the about link here, and I'm navigating to the about page, and I can go back to the home page by clicking on the home. So as I'm clicking on these links, notice that the address bar is changing. Pay attention to the address bar is changing. I can also click on the browser's back button and I can go back. So it's looking like a traditional navigation in a website, but because this is a single page application, we're not actually requesting a new page from the server when I click on the about link, for example. This page rendering and this navigation is all happening in the browser side. There is no communication happening with the server at all. So that's what makes it a single page application. All right, so we don't really need these pages, so I'm going to go ahead and delete a bunch of stuff to avoid clutter. And by the way, each page here, like this about page and a home page, each page is implemented in Vue as a component, right? So every page is a component. So I can see here under the views folder, there is about.vue and home.vue. They got all created. I don't need about.vue. Let me go and delete this thing. I don't need these other components. Let me delete this. All right, so what I'll do, remember my application that I'm building, I need 3 pages, show list of products, and we're gonna do this in the home page using the home component. View product details. We're going to create a new component called product details. In the shopping cart, we're going to create a component called cart. All right, so we're going to create these two new ones, and we're going to reuse this, repurpose the home component to show the list of products. Okay. This is the root component. I don't need any special styling, and I will delete everything. And so app.view is the root component. So let's, for example, if I do, let me, I don't know if the page is rendering, though there are some errors because I deleted a bunch of stuff. Before I explain what's going on in the app.view, let me go to this other file, router. So router has the route table, which is basically a mapping between the path and the component. For example, the path slash is mapped to the home component. Okay. So because I deleted the about component, let me get rid of this. It's complaining about dependency was not found. Hello world.view. Home component. Yeah, I don't need to, you cannot do this. I deleted the file. It can be used in the hello world. Okay. All right. So let's just make things simple. I just want to show you the hierarchy of the components. So app.view is the root component. So I'm just going to put a h1 here saying I am the root. And let's save this. Then I go to the home. Sorry, I'm going to say I am the home component. So you can see that the root component is here, and I'm the home component. And you can show this even better by using a style. So for app component, let's set the background div background color to red. And for the home component, I can set a style background color to blue. And that should show the hierarchy also, so that the root component contains the home component. So what is going on here is that we have a route table where we are mapping the path to a component. And since currently the path is default or slash, you can think of it like this, system is picking this home component and is rendering it on screen. And the place where it gets rendered is here. In the app component or the root component's template has a placeholder called route view. And the router view is where the mapped the component that goes with the current path gets rendered in the router view placeholder. Okay, so this is exactly what the home component is currently getting rendered. So let's go ahead and create these other components we need. We need the product details and the cart. I'm going to do that here. New file, product details just dot view, and let's create the other one, cart dot view. So I got all the pages created here, and let's go ahead and set up the route table for them. And I don't need the name for that. So let's do cart. So my path is going to be cart. I need to import the names. And once I import the names, I can set up the route table. Now for product details, we're going to call the path slash product details, but this needs something else. It needs the product ID that is going to be showing. So I need a parameter here. So let's call it product ID. I need to supply a specific parameter for the product I want to show. All right, so now that completes my route table. Take a look at it one more time before you move on. Slash maps to home. Slash cart is going to map to the cart component, and slash product details is going to map to the product details component. And this guy needs a special parameter in the path that will identify the product we need to show. So we are now ready to build these pages, but we need some kind of a database because I'm going to keep things simple here. I don't have any backend server here. I'm going to kind of have a local hard-coded fake database, if you want to call that. So let's call this, let me create a folder called services. In that folder, I'm going to create a new file called catalog.js. In catalog.js, I'm going to add some functions. So these are basically my core business logic. This is not something to do with fonts and colors and forms and things like that. So my pure business logic. So this is where you would normally write your backend communication tools. One second, guys. Sorry, I had to take the call. I thought there might be some problem with the webinar. That's why. Anyway, so this is where you would write your business logic, like communicating with the backend service and things like that. So we're going to build a very simple database here of products. So let's go ahead and create this. I'm just copy pasting an array of products here. So each product has an ID, title, description, price, and an image URL. All right, so that's my catalog, and write some basic catalog functions. One is the get catalog, which simply returns the catalog. Notice the function is exported, but this variable here is not exported. So you cannot access this variable from outside this file. So it's private to this module. Whereas this function is exported, so this function can be called from outside the module. And then I have another method called get product by ID. It just does a search in my catalog database and it returns a product. Very simple code. Let's save this guy. And now we have enough to start building our home component. So remember, my home component is going to display a list of products. So before I can display a list of products, I need to get a hold of the products. So to do that, I need to write the component code, the home component code. And before I do that, let me import the function we just developed, the get catalog function, which is in the services. And so this is where the components code goes in. One of the things we need is the data. So this is the internal state data of the Vue component. And it's written as a function, and we need to return the actual state data. So what this component needs to only know the list of products it needs to display. So we're going to call it catalog again. So it's a catalog. Initially, it will be initialized with an empty array. I don't have any other state data for this component, so I'm going to leave it alone. And then I need to write a lifecycle handler. I'm going to call it mounted. So mounted is a lifecycle callback. This gets called when the component has been instantiated and it has been displayed on the page. It has been injected on the page or mounted on the DOM of the page. So the component is visible at this point. So I write this mounted lifecycle handler, and from there I retrieve the catalog. So I simply call this dot catalog, which is my internal state variable, and I update that by calling get catalog. So in real life, you can imagine this will be a backend call to a web service, but here we are keeping it simple. We're just calling get catalog here. So that updates my internal state. I have the catalog at this point, and I can go ahead and display the catalog in the template. So if you are used to programming in JSP or ASP, you know exactly how templates work. This is the same concept, except we are doing this in the browser side. So this template will be executed in the browser side. So let's put a header here. We're going to say our product catalog, and then I'm going to show every product using a div tag. And what I want to do here is that I want to repeatedly run this div tag. I have to repeatedly generate for every product. I'm going to generate the div tag. So for that, I need to go into a for loop. I use this attribute called view for v4 and call it product in catalog. So this catalog is referring to my internal state variable catalog, and I'm doing a loop here. Each item in the catalog will be saved in a variable called product. So now I can show data about each product. So remember, my product has a title. Every product has a title. So let's take advantage of that. I'm going to show the product title this way. So if you're used to JSP programming, so what I just did here is same as in JSP. It will be like this or something like that. I think it's the same in ASP also. So I'm just doing the same thing, but in Vue, the syntax is a double curly brace. Basically, we're rendering the data on the screen. So this guy is complaining about a key binding. I'm going to do that, and I'll explain to you what that is. We have to, I said that I'm going to be generating a new div tag for every product in the catalog. And Vue is asking me to uniquely identify each product. And there's a good reason for that. It's a little bit beyond the scope of this discussion, but it's for performance reasons. You want to go ahead and uniquely identify each item that you are iterating through. All right, so that is there. Then I can show the image in a p tag. Let's do the image here. img src. I'm going to say width is 150 pixels. So that's an image, but the source is product.image. Okay, so the way we're going to do this, we're going to do a data binding because this is dynamic. So I have to say vbind :source product dot image. All right, so that's why we are dynamically binding the source attribute to this expression. So this is not a string, that's an expression, that's product.image. Vue is going to evaluate the expression and is going to set the src attribute based on the result. All right, so now I want to add a link here. I want to add a link that will take me to the product details page. So let's first of all make sure this is working before I add the link. Let me see, that should work. Oh, I still have this red background. Let me take that out. App.view, let me take that out. Let me take all these out. Okay, so I can see that my home page is working. I can see the list of products here: mixed nuts, walnuts, and almond, and that's based on my catalog here. Oh, let's go ahead and show the price. The price is product. The price. Save this, and now the price is visible. All right, so the home page is kind of working. So now let's put a link here that will take me to the product details page. How do I do that? So remember, this is not a regular hyperlink. Okay, we're not going to do a regular hyperlink, because if you do a regular hyperlink, when you click on that, it's going to send a request to the web server. You don't want that to happen. These navigations are happening entirely in the browser. So we want to navigate to the product details component. For that, we have to use a special tag called router link. This comes with Vue. So router link needs to know where you want to go to. So to, and I'm going to do a string interpolation here. It will be slash product details, then the product ID. All right, so that's the product ID. And so we are supplying the product ID here. Remember my route table, it is expecting a product ID in the URL. So I'm supplying that over there, and that completes my router link. So I'm going to say view details as the label. Let's save this and see how this works. So I have this view details link. If I hover over there, notice the bottom of the browser, you can see the URL is saying slash product details slash P001. That's exactly what I want to see, because those are the IDs. Now it's showing P002 and so on. So that's good. That's exactly what we wanted. So now, before I can click on this, I need to implement the product details page. So I'm going to go to product details page here, and let's do this. To speed things up, let me copy paste the whole thing in the product details, and I'll make changes. So in the product details page, I need to obtain the product that you need to display details of. So my internal state now is going to be a product of some kind, and by default, I'm going to set this to a empty object. And from the mounted callback, I'm going to look up the product. And another thing I need to know is, what is the product ID? So let's slowly work on that. I need get product by ID method from the services. I need to have, what I need to do is, if I look at my route table, I need to map this product ID to an internal property. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to say props So it's going to declare a property for the component called product ID. And because the name of the property matches the URL parameter, Vue is going to set this for us automatically. You don't have to worry about it. So I declared a property called product ID. I have a data called product. And now I have to look up the product. I'm going to call get product by ID and supply the product ID, this dot product ID. So this product ID will be set automatically by Vue from the URL parameter. And I can simply do a lookup. Again, in real life, this is going to be a backend service call perhaps to look up the product details. And so now I have the product loaded. I can display it here. So now the title will become the H1 tag. And I don't need to go into a for loop here. I can show the image maybe a little bit larger and now because this is the details page, everything else is the same, price is there. I don't need to navigate to anywhere else. All right, so that's my product details. One thing I can show here is a description of the product. I haven't shown that earlier. Product.description. Okay, so the price is here, the description is there, image is there, title is there. Everything is looking good. Let me reformat this a little bit. All right, that's good. So now that will complete my product details page. I think it looks good. And now I can navigate to it, and I click on the view details for the mixed nuts. I should be able to navigate to it, and it doesn't work. What happened here? It says cannot read property title of undefined. So so initially the product doesn't have these properties, so let me protect it. So I don't want to render anything until the product has been obtained. And so let me protect it by saying v if product not equal to undefined. So now the problem should go away, but it's still not going away. Why is it not rendering anything? Let me print out the product ID, make sure. Oh, you know what? I made a mistake. So I said that because the URL parameter is called product ID, and I have a matching prop here called product ID. Vue is going to set the value for us. It will, but there's something else I need to do before that can happen. I need to come here in the route table. I have to say props equals true. Only then it's going to do that automatic behavior. Okay, let me save that. And now it's working. So let me go back to home, click on mixed nuts, view details, and I can see the big image, and I see the description here. I see the price, and seems to be working fine. And if I go to walnuts, again, I am seeing the walnuts, and you can see the corresponding URL is changing, and I'm seeing, let me make the image a little bit smaller. It's just too big. Make it 250 pixels. Okay, that's better. So you can see how navigation is working in a single page application. It just looks like a regular navigation, but it's not really going to the server. It's not loading a whole page. And because of that, the navigation will be super fast. It's very quick. Okay, So I'm going to now, we have about 20 minutes left. So I'm going to work on the add to cart function. So we're going to add a button here called add to cart. Let me add the button first. So when this button is clicked, we want two things to happen. We want the product to be added to the cart, and then I want to show the cart page. All right, I want to navigate to the cart. So previously, my navigation used a link. When I clicked on a link, I did a navigation. Now I have to do navigation from code after we add the product to the cart. So I'm going to show you how to do programmatic navigation. All right, so let's work on the cart business. So first we start from the back. We write our business logic, and to do that, we create a cart here. Let cart, initially the cart is empty. And again, this is not exported. This is a private variable to the module. And I can write some cart handling function. First, I write add to cart. So add to cart takes a product and it adds it to the cart list. And then get cart, so I can get a hold of the cart. Okay, so let's first add to cart. Okay, let's work on adding to cart. So in my product details page, I have a button called add to cart. Let us set up a click event handler called add. So from here, we're going to add to cart. So I now have a click event handler for the button, which is calling the add method. So let me go ahead and add this method to my component. So in methods, in Vue, the methods are created like this. In a methods object, I create these methods, add method, and there I need to add to cart. So let me bring this method from the services, and now I can call add to cart this dot product. I'm adding the product to the cart. Now, after the item is added to the cart, I need to navigate to the cart. To do that, I will use this dot router dot push cart. That means navigate to the cart URL at this point. So that's the programmatic navigation. So we're adding it to the cart, and then we're moving to the cart page. All right, that's good. But before I can test it out, I need to work on the cart page. Let me again copy paste this just to quickly create. Go to my cart page, which is empty right now. All right, so for the cart, I need to get a hold of the cart from the service. Get cart function. Don't need a name or anything like that. My internal data will be a cart. I need to get that from the server. And from the mounted callback, I call get cart from the service. And once again, in real life, this will be a web service call. So that's all the component looks like. Now, if I go to the template, in the template, I'm going to make changes. You say, I'm going to say your cart, shopping cart, and I'm going to iterate through the cart. Okay, I'm going to just leave the key out for now. I think it's going to complain about it, but it should work. So for every product in the cart, I show the title here and show an image, small image. And I don't need anything else here. Let me just put a HR so that it looks like a nice line. All right. So that should complete my cart logic. And I should be able to, there is a problem. So it is complaining about the V key bind, but the problem is for a cart, I can add the same product multiple times. So I don't really have a good unique identifier, but I'm going to go ahead and fudge it for now. I'm going to say product.id is the unique identifier, but if I add the same product twice, there'll be a problem here. But let's just keep going for this example. We're fine. All right, so let's go back to the home. We're going to start from there. Let's start from the bottom, almond. And we're going to add almond to cart, and this will add to cart, and then it's going to navigate to the cart page. And it looks like almond is added. Let me go back and go to mixed nuts. I add to cart, and mixed nuts is showing up in my cart as well. So that essentially completes my application. I have a full online shopping application, all single page. It's all done in a single page application. But user doesn't know that. User thinks that they're navigating between pages. The back button is working. Add to cart is adding it to the cart. One last thing I would like to do is add the cart link on top as well, so I can get to the cart at any time. So remember, the top header comes from the root component. And let me change this to cart. Now I can jump to the cart from anywhere. If I go to home, view details, I can still jump to the cart and my cart is intact. So everything seems to be working fine. All right, guys, thank you for coming and excellent questions. Let me post my email address in the chat also, so you can ask me any more questions in the future. And have a great day and stay safe. Thank you.